Upfront Toronto podcast.
So, hello, Cheryl.
Hello,
I'd like
Alon.
to welcome you to Upfront Toronto, conversations with people that move the city forward. I'm really excited to talk to you, and thank you for agreeing to join Liza and I. Your energy is outstanding. I follow you on Instagram, and I see you here and there at the Side Kitchen. So you have a really interesting personal story that we'll get to a little later. You've been 20 years in the food business, have retired from the food business. Then you ran a spin studio. And then soon after you created your Uncle Chuck's brand. And now you're working and selling your barbecue sauce and your rubs through Side Kitchen and growing your business, which I also tried your products and I really love them. So welcome. Did I miss anything?
No, that's great.
It's a good overview. Okay.
Yeah, excellent.
Fantastic.
All right. So you know what? We're going to dive right in, but we're going to start with some COVID questions, just because it's you can't not talk about it. It's sort of the elephant in the room. So, in terms of, the rubs that you do or, and your work with the Side Kitchen, how has COVID affected that? How's that affected, the business? Like, have there been drawbacks, opportunities that come to mind for you and for yourself
actually,
personally?
Uncle Chuck's came out of COVID. Uncle Chuck's didn't actually hit the shelves until December when the Side Kitchen opened. I know Yuna Hong from the community, and she put a little bug in my ear kind of maybe in the summer that she would be doing something called the Side Kitchen. Would I be interested? And I haven't been in food for 5 years. I won the Wall of Chefs on the first season, one of the episodes. And so she was kind of poking at me, and I didn't know how I was going to contribute to her store or what I would have to offer. And then I spent the summer just kind of playing around with rubs and barbecue sauce.
And was that specifically because of this project, or were you just doing that anyway?
No, this was specifically because I'm always at my grill. As soon as the weather gets nice, that's it. Everything goes on the grill. And I feel pretty particular about sauces and rubs. There's a lot on the shelves. A lot of them suck.
Right.
So I end up having to make my own stuff.
Yeah.
Right. I don't buy it. And then I was fiddling around with a couple recipes, and I thought, this is it. This is what I think I could put on the shelves at Yuna's store. But because I've grown in this community as somebody who worked at the spin studio, and people know my personality. They know I came from food. And I thought, this is a way for me to continue my relationship with these fabulous people, but I could be in their backyard. I can be on their dinner table, and it can be a great product.
Cheryl, I want to say that I had your barbecue sauce also, and your barbecue sauce is one of the only barbecue sauces that I didn't need to spike. Like, I'd say 9 out of 10, I chop ginger, add soy, maybe a little ketchup, maybe a little, like a bunch of stuff just to bring it to an acceptable flavor level. And yours was outstanding and also very kid friendly. So outstanding job on that one.
Thank you very much.
That's awesome. when you started to, I'm kind of jumping ahead here, but when you started to do the rubs in that, like, were you at that point like, oh no, I don't want to get back into food again, bad experience, or not bad experience, or were you like, yeah, you know what, I'm ready to try getting into food again?
I think there's a couple of things. I think one, as long as I'm not in the kitchen slogging 12, 14-hour days,
right,
6-7 days a week, I physically can't do it anymore. Plus all the young kids coming out of culinary school, they just skate circles around me. So as long as I'm not doing on a full-time basis where I have nothing left and I'm fully tapped out at the end of my day, I can still help run the spin studio and then head over there in the afternoons. I'm in one store right now, And that's okay by me. It's really, really important that I'm a part of the community, that Uncle Chuck's is almost the reason why I picked Uncle Chuck's is Chuck was my very first nickname given to me by my dad. And it was kind of like an homage to me being born a girl, but being like his favorite guy sidekick. We did all the projects together, and it was his rendition of Cheryl turned into a male name, which became Chuck. And so I have a lot of friends in my life who have children. I don't have children of my own, but they all refer to me as Uncle Chuck. So they actually, or Uncle Cheryl, they actually kind of brought that name to light. And I think it's really important for me to be included in family gatherings when you're celebrating coming together, and that I'm fluid for a lot of people. And children are fantastic. They don't even ask any questions, not even why are you called Uncle Chuck? You're a girl, not a boy, blah, blah, blah. They just go with it. And so that's how the name Uncle Chuck's came to be.
Are you happy to be included in those family get-togethers when the shit hits the fan and everybody hates each other also? Or is that when you bail?
They're not going to hate the barbecue sauce. They're going to be mad at each other. They're not going to complain about the food that I was attached to.
No,
and, I'm happy to leave when the shit hits the fan.
And the barbecue, you know, it brings, you're right, it brings people together. It's like it becomes the center while you're making the food. It's kind of, it creates this energy around it, and everybody smells and hears the sizzle and that kind of action. And it does, everybody gravitates towards it, especially when they think the food is ready, and then it's a kind of flock around it. So very cool.
Well, it's like the kitchen outside. It kind of becomes, you know, how the kitchen is kind of the hub. It sort of becomes the outside hub kitchen, and it has that same sort of appeal to it. Yeah.
But it's almost like in the summer we go past our kitchen and we open up and we invite other people. So it grows and it becomes, at least when I was a kid, extended family, people who weren't family that all of a sudden you considered family. We called everybody auntie and uncle in my neighborhood. It didn't matter. And you would get in trouble from those people if you did something wrong. So we all acted as family. And so there was 5 people in my family, but as soon as the backyard opened up, everybody from the community came, right? Everybody from our neighborhood came.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's funny. Sometimes other chefs talk to me or people ask me and they say, well, what restaurants did you work at? And I say, I didn't work at restaurants. I knew when I went to culinary school that I didn't want to work at restaurants. And I always tell the story of, it was more important for me as somebody who is working with food and customer service to build a relationship with my customer and have integrity, because they were essentially inviting me to their table. And I felt like they were allowing me to be part of their family.
So, you know what, let's just jump in. No problem. Let's just go into your career kind of quickly, because 20 years in food service. Can you tell us just a couple of the places you worked at and what you did?
Sure. I was really fortunate to start while I was going to culinary school. I worked for Cumbres when Stephen Alexander just opened up on Church Street. And I was there for about 4.5 years. And I didn't necessarily cook because they didn't have a kitchen, but I was allowed to be a part of that community there. Were you
also a butcher at the time? Did you learn a lot about?
Well, I did learn. Unfortunately, when I went to culinary school, there was no butcher program. They stopped it for a long time, and I'm not sure why. But I learned a ton of stuff, and I still rely on it today from everybody that I worked with. But I was never in the back with the butchers. I was always up front with the customers.
So you know the best pieces of meat, and you know. So you had customers who'd come and ask you for specifics, and you know how to cater to them. Did you have to ever you run out and sell them something that's similar and kind of, and they were happy with it?
Absolutely. So building on my culinary background and my love for food and cooking enabled me to give suggestions or give them play-by-play, how you walk through what you're going to do, how long you should perhaps keep it on the grill or put it in the oven, what's the internal temperature, you know, that kind of that kind of stuff.
Do you know?
Oh my God, I love people like you when I go to the butcher, because I'm like, I really want to try this, but what do I do with this? Like, I don't. It's not something that comes naturally, and I'm like, I want to cook. What do I do? And inevitably, somebody has something
I think for people who are in food, the biggest thing you can do is help your customer pull the Band-Aid off. So any way that you can make it simple and make it exciting and take away the fear. A lot of people have fear, and just encourage them. And then the next time they come in, you say, hey, Liza, how's that pork tenderloin? What did you do? And you can be like, oh my God, exactly what you said worked out. Or I changed it a little bit. I kind of went in another direction. And it's exciting. We come to this place where we meet over food and we connect and we share ideas, and you leave feeling great.
Do you know,
it's so true.
I remember when I was 16, I started working as a dishwasher. And then at 17, I became a meat cutter in a Jewish deli. And there's the brisket. So I don't know a lot about meat, but I know brisket well. And 9 out of 10 of the people asking for the sandwich, because, it's steamed, sitting this piping hot steam table. And it has, I'd say, about a half of it is lean, and the fat will just be on top. And then the other half would have another piece of meat on top. And in the middle, it has that thick a chunk of fat inside. And 9
Sounds
out
like
of
10.
A
double point brisket to me.
Well, on one side, it was double, and the other it wasn't. And they're all asking for lean sandwiches, and I couldn't. It's impossible. So I was like cutting the fat out of the fatty part and selling it as lean, because my boss wouldn't let me. Like, I couldn't just sell the lean parts as lean. That's why I was asking you. I'd say I almost always got away with it, but not always. I'd say the older the customer, the less bullshit you could give them. So
absolutely.
They weren't charmed by the smile. Anyways, today nobody's charmed by the smile. Very cool. So let's say where did you get the idea for the business? Is the Uncle Chuck's 2.0, the modern? Where are you at today?
Well, I've had a couple times in my chef career that I tried to go with a side business, but and Chuck's was part of it. It wasn't Uncle Chuck's, but there was definitely Chuck's was part of the name. And I had barbecue sauce, I had ketchup, I had a whole bunch of taglines that I thought I would add to them, but I just, at the end of the day, you've put in 6 days a week. You work shift work and all that kind of stuff. I couldn't bring it to fruition. I was too tired. The amount of time it would take to push the product, introduce the product, taste test the product, get into market, like farmers markets and stuff like that. I was just too tired at the end of my day. So it's not the first time. I also am not, I would say, business savvy in terms of the back end of things. I'm really great at the personable. I'm really great at the cooking. I have an ability to put flavors together. But it also takes a business savvy person to be able to drive actually the business. So it can look great, it can taste great, but if you don't know how to do the business part, you're in trouble. And that is not my forte.
And Side Kitchen helps you with that.
Una is fabulous. So I would have to say Uncle Chuck's, even though I'm the driving force behind Uncle Chuck's, I have her to deflect and ask questions. And because she's been in business so long, she is just ready and available with, no, that's not a proper decision. Think about that. No, why would you do it that way? The cost is going to be this great. Okay, let's rethink it. So I have this beautiful sounding board that is just always there for me. So it's been great.
Who is your source of inspiration, if you think back for the business or even in life?
I would have to say, like growing up where I grew up, it was an incredible experience in terms of who was in my neighborhood and what we meant to each other.
What neighborhood was that, Cheryl?
It was in the beach. I lived the far east corner of the beach. I lived just by Fallingbrook there. So it was beautiful. We had everything at our fingertips. And then we had this beautiful community of families who were our neighbors. And so we just always were together, and food was a part of the celebration. And I was just lucky enough to be able to have food and to be able to have celebration in my life. And it's something that always brought me comfort. And there was a time when I didn't have that. So I think for me, I really wanted to get back to that. And then I wanted to be a part of it by offering it to other people, because I really place a lot of importance on community. And when I decided not to go to restaurants, my whole logic behind it was, you know, if you go to a big restaurant and you pay, you know, $300, $400 for a meal for two of you, it doesn't happen every day of the week. It happens twice a month, once a month, every 6 months, depending on who you are. But I wanted to be a part of everybody's meals. I wanted to be a part of 5 meals a week. That was way more important to me because it meant that I was actually having an impact. You were inviting me to your table. I was part of the conversation, and then you would come and report back to me. And it was a real key element in terms of business. So what it meant for Cumbres and other places meant that there was a solid customer return, and a lifelong relationship.
I've seen Cumbres' new place on Eglinton and Yonge. In that old post office. It's gorgeous. Have you had a chance to be there?
No, I have not gone up there.
Okay. So what's the best part of your job these days? What do you love the most?
Well, right now COVID's got the spin studio closed. So I kind of do what I do behind the scenes, and which is definitely all about my customers. And then fortunately, Una opened up, I think the first week of December. She was like, I've decided to open up. I was like, I don't have any product for you. So it was just getting in there and figuring out, I knew the recipes because I tweaked them all summer, and I had all my friends try them, and I tried them on tons of different kinds of foods. And then I got in there and started to be able to play. And it's actually been really beneficial for me to get in the kitchen and then have Una there. And every now and again, I'll see a customer. And, you know, COVID's been really difficult. And when you're really customer centered, it's been difficult that I haven't had the connection with the people that I do on a daily basis.
So that's what you love the most. What is the connection with the customer, or
Absolutely.
The development of the food or the recipes?
Oh, the development is very important too. I'm a very creative person. I'm the kind of cook that I could walk into anybody's house and you could say to me, I'm hungry, but I don't have anything. I got this, that, they don't go together, and I could serve you a meal. That is like my forte, right? So I love being creative. Food allows me to be creative, right? It's like painting a canvas. I like that there's no rules. I like that maybe there's some base rules, but I really don't like rules. So I just go.
We could never have told that. By the way, I really like your cap. It's I know you if you're listening to this, you can't see it, but very, very cool branding.
Thank you very much. My friend Nat Lumbee did these up for me. Yeah, I'm pretty fortunate.
So these days, how do you handle stress?
I do a little bit of working out. So that's definitely something that I have to do. It makes me feel better about myself. I try and stay as connected as I possibly can. You know, for as much as social media does bad, social media has done great for me. It's a way to be able to connect to people, say what's on my mind. I have 2 accounts now. I've got one for Uncle Chuck, so that's business purposes, but I still get to be myself. And then I have my personal one, Chef Inc. And I do dance videos. I'll do motivation. I'll just do whatever I feel like doing. And that's a way for me to stay connected to the people that fill my soul every day.
Liza, have you seen her on camera? Have you seen her dancing and
yes,
entering the side kitchen?
I did see it. And that song was in my head for the next 3 days.
What was the song? Remind me.
Oh God.
Tom Jones.
That's
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was in my head, and I had heard the song before, and then it was in my, and then, you know, 2 days like, where did that come from? And I'm like, oh yeah. But I thought to myself, there needs to be more dance videos.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because any of the ones that where you're dancing, I'm like hooked, and I'm not like, I'm watching it a couple times because I'm like, it really does come very naturally for you. Like I find if you see me in dancing, like it's like, oh, awkward girl, stop. But
I think what you need to understand.
Eliza, I support that, by the way, of seeing you dancing. That's stick to other things.
Right?
Jade. Well,
that's
for me,
okay.
Everything is filtered through my brain as if it was a Broadway musical. I have been like that my entire life. I actually tried to convince my wife when we got married to do like a musical where everybody participated, and she didn't go for it.
I want to see when you get Yuna dancing with you. That would be the day.
That will never happen.
Gosh, we all have a project now. So where did this creativity come from? Because it's not just creativity with your food. It's obviously creativity with the way that you know, it's really kind of woven into, seems like all of your life, like into all parts of your life.
I have been like this since I was a kid. It's
born with it then.
I was born with it, and I would have to say that it is usually only other people who try and knock it down, or if something were to happen within life that would make me pause or take me away from that. But I come back to it very quickly. I have an ability to kind of figure out what I need to figure out or push away the people who are negative. And then I get right back up and away I go. Like Yuna said, she's like, I don't know where you get your energy from.
Mm-hmm.
And I am literally the same person I am today at 52 as I was at 5, 6, 7, 8, all the way up.
Really? That's so cool.
Yeah. So to kind of summarize the career part, who's your favorite competitor? So in terms of either a barbecue sauce that you like or rubs, who do you appreciate doing business in Toronto? And you can't say Cambres.
You know what? I came from Summerhill Market, and a Summerhill Market's game is on. That's for sure. Yeah. And I know the executive chef, so.
Okay, I'll check it out.
Yeah. They do more hits than misses than anybody, I feel. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
So let's go. I want to get into a little bit of the personal side, because I think that, well, I think we all think, you know, that's a side that you don't always see if people are in business. So where were you born?
I was born in Toronto.
Okay, so you were born in Toronto, and you know, some of the key lessons, because your background, you know, you were living with a family, I guess, until I think you said 15.
Yep.
And then you were on your own. But what did you learn in that time? I mean, the community comes through really predominantly, and the family and the culture. But in terms of how you run your business, what lessons or key lessons did you learn from your parents?
I was really fortunate. My father was a huge member of our community and through our church. And he was real simplistic about who you needed to be in the world. And I would have to say some of it was just me and natural, but some of it was taught to me by him. And that was always put other people before yourself. Always think of other people. Always go and help other people. Don't expect anything back. It's always better to be a good human and to do more. And some people won't be able to return it. And that's okay. You're just supposed to go and be that person. And that is literally the person I am in every day.
So that has had a huge influence then, continuously.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I would have to say the biggest ingredient in my sauces, my rubs, or my food is integrity. Okay. That's just what my dad taught me.
And love, by the sounds of it.
And lots of love, for sure.
Lots of love, because that changes the flavor.
That's right.
So what is the dumbest thing you've ever done as an adult or teenager?
Oh my God. There's so many things I could talk about.
Just take out the book, open any page, pick one thing.
Once I tried to pretend like I knew how to fix a car, and then I crashed it into a farmer's field.
What kind of car was that?
A good one.
I don't remember.
So you didn't fix the car then?
Not really.
Not really. So when you were growing up, did you know what you wanted to be when you grew up? Like, you know, you always had this love for food, and then you went to culinary school, but like when you were younger.
Well, I said to my dad, I wanted to be a police officer.
Okay.
You know, back when they weren't so negative.
They get a bad rap, but they do good work too.
But there was, being a cop back then was way different. There was community beat cops, right? They totally knew who was in the neighborhood. You could talk to them about anything. It was a way different experience. So I thought and I probably wanted to be the post office guy, because he would bring me a book every day. I loved going to see him, and we knew him, and he would always sit and chat on my porch. Like, that's kind of
that community sense still.
Absolutely.
And so what's a day in the life? Like, what's your morning routine? Are you not constantly, but are you often in the kitchen testing and like, what's the morning routine for you?
Well, actually today over coffee, I was doing a deep dive into dill pickle relish, because that's the next thing coming up. So just taking a look at any kind of recipe that would excite me, what the process would be, because it can't be too convoluted. And then taking a few recipes, trying them, and then making them better.
And where do you get the ideas? Like, why dill pickle? Like, what happened? Were you eating a dill pickle chip and then suddenly
first of all, I love dill pickles. Okay. But when I think about Uncle Chuck's and I think about barbecue and events around the barbecue with family, I want to be the full experience. So I've got a barbecue sauce, then I have a Boom barbecue sauce, and then I have a ketchup. I've got a beef rub, a rib rub, and a chicken rub. I want to get a veggie rub. I want a dill pickle relish, and then I'm doing a mustard mashup.
I was waiting for the mustard to follow.
I'm very particular about flavors that go in my mouth and how they combine on my burger. And so for me, it's about when the right combination hits my mouth, the pleasure and the oh my God moments is why I want to create those, because I want them all to come together and I want it to be a wow factor. Like I want to make an onion marmalade, right?
So Cheryl, who makes the best burger in the city? Sorry, I'm kind of, you got me thinking about hamburgers, and I just love a good burger.
Well, I have to tell you, in my community, the best burger going around is the Comrade.
They have burgers? I didn't know they have burgers.
Honey,
they do take out on burgers there?
Yes, honey.
Really? Okay.
I'm telling you right now, that smash burger. So there's, smash burgers are like the thing now. Yeah. I love a good old traditional barbecued burger. Don't get me wrong. But if I'm not,
I think the smash burgers are overdone now. I'm a little tired of them, and they burn them too much. And they 10 minutes. I mean, they shouldn't be sitting around for more than 10 minutes, but then they get pretty gross.
Yeah. You have to do them as they come in. And I have to commend Comrades. They do that. Like you have to wait for it because it's getting done to service, but trust me when I tell you, go and have one.
I may visit them tonight.
I was going to say dinner plans.
Okay, thank you.
But don't forget my patties. The Daddy's patties are in.
I want to try them. I know they're on my list.
And what are those? Tell us a bit about those.
So the Daddy's patties. So my other nickname is Daddy. Okay. So it's either Chef, Daddy, or Uncle Chuck. That's it. And so
Lisa, what are you going to call her? Daddy, Uncle Chuck?
Well, I might just say Cheryl.
Yeah, that's fine too.
That's how I've known you. But as I get to know you, it'll probably be Uncle Chuck.
But I've been making burgers for 20 years, right?
Yeah.
So why not make a 6-pack? You're coming in to get everything for the barbecue. Why don't you grab some patties and you're ready to go? They're
and how
simple.
are they sold?
There's no filler. There's 6 to a pack. They come out of the freezer. You slap them on the grill. Bam.
Perfect.
So what
But
is it like? Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
Sorry. I also come up with the names too. Like, so
I honestly think you missed a career in marketing.
I know.
No joke. Food aside, as important as it is, you're doing a good job on marketing.
Well, it kind of just comes to me. I knew I wanted to make a relish, so now it's Uncle Chuck's a big deal, right? And I'm making a jerky, and it's Uncle Chuck's a jerk.
Well, just ask the neighbors; they'll tell you.
Right? So sometimes it just comes to me, and then Yuna makes a killer Korean sauce. So I'm going to play with her recipe because we can't do all the fresh ingredients. So once I create it, we'll make sure it's up to what her standard is for that sauce. And then she was like, well, maybe we could call it, what would you call it? And I said, oh, maybe we'll call it the Chuck Norris. And she goes, oh, maybe we should call it Chucky Chan. And I said, well, we can't call it Chucky Chan. Really. But I get where you're going with it. So then my wife and I were on a hike 2.5 hours later. And I said to her, I love Chucky Chan, but literally we cannot use that, but it's brilliant. She said, yeah, what are we going to call it? And we were spitting out names. And I said, oh my God, I stopped her in the middle of the forest. And I said, I got it. She goes, yeah. I said, well, it's going to have the word Chuck in it. And we're going to call it Num, as in num, 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 num. N-O-M, Chucks, Num Chucks. And it's going to have a pair of nunchucks on it. Yeah, that's what it is. And
that's
literally,
yeah,
it's
smart.
just having fun. It's just me sitting. And then I'm like, I have all these ideas for T-shirts. Like,
so when do you get, like, I'm really curious. You said that because creativity, it doesn't come from within us. It comes from around us. And you're describing like when you're walking in the forest. That's I do create also, and you have to be in that mode, right? You have to put yourself in that state of mind. What state of mind do you like? How do you put yourself in that?
It can be over coffee. It could be if I'm playing like a little TV. I could be with friends. My mind is actually never kind of really silent. And so
do you sleep at night?
No, I have insomnia.
Okay,
bad. Yeah. Because my mind is always going. So I just kind of pay attention to it. But sometimes I think it's really ridiculous what I come up with, and it makes me laugh, but it doesn't mean that's actually funny or actually a good idea. But the more I say it, people are like, oh yeah, that's great. And
I think it comes down to how confident you say it, and it could be the dumbest thing and it may work.
Maybe.
Never worked for me, but I think for you it worked.
Yeah, I think if it was the 60s and I was in marketing and advertising, I would be right up
kill
there.
it. Yeah, on Bay Street.
Yeah.
Bay Street, Chuck on Bay Street.
So Cheryl, where's your happy place? Like you know, your community is important to you. You're married, you work at the Spin, you're doing this Uncle Chuck's rubs and sauces and stuff. So where's your, like, this is my happy place? I suspect I know the answer, but I'm going to let you tell me.
Oh, you think you know the answer? Okay,
I do. I think know the answer.
In my home, that's my happiness. Around my people, within my community, with as little drama as possible.
Okay. Yeah. I was going to say probably like around a table with food and family, community, you know, whatever that looks like. That is the content check mark. And what's your guilty pleasure? Do you have a guilty pleasure?
Ice cream.
Ooh, what kind?
Okay. My top flavor. Well, I can go from high end to like I'm going to crush a peanut butter parfait this weekend. I've been holding off for 2 weeks. But it is a go-to. It's got the salty, the sweet, the chocolate, the vanilla. It reaches all those points for me. But my go-to is the sweet cream at Ed's Real Scoop.
The sweet cream. Okay. Noted.
And sometimes some Smarties end up on it. I don't know why, but it's just a flavor explosion for me.
Okay.
But yeah.
And what book are you reading right now?
I'm reading The Good Stripper.
Tell us more.
Well, Marcy, I met Marcy.
Does it have pictures though?
No. Let me see if I can pull it out here for you.
Leave it to your imagination. The Good Stripper.
My friend Marcy
wrote
this book, and it is fabulous. It says a soccer mom's memoir of lies, loss, and lap dances.
Well then.
Yeah, it's actually really good. And I feel fortunate. I met her on social media. Fabulous.
Okay, so you didn't know her before. It's not like this longtime friend, and now that's amazing.
No, fell in love with her. I did a podcast with a friend of mine, Kate Freed, who's great friends with Una. And I met Marcy and heard her story. And I said to Kate, you got to have this woman on your podcast. And the book, she's a bona fide, she dances also too. That's
right. You have that.
So the book has a picture. The book has a picture of a pole, and it has a picture of a stroller right next to it.
That's right.
What's that about?
She's a mom, right? If she's
a mom, that's right. And it's her story about her growing up and her marriage and her children, and then obviously her being a stripper and what that was all about, and then all the good parts and all the bad parts. And it's very candid, and I appreciate that very much.
Yeah, you can't skip the bad parts. You need to confront them and go through them.
You just got to throw them out there, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, they're part of the story. They make the story.
I know, but there are people who would be like, it's just too much.
Right.
Yeah. Anyway, I know what Marcy would say to that. Don't buy my damn book, then, girl.
Right. So if you could come into the world as anyone, who would it be?
Me.
Love it.
You have nothing to say to that.
I did. I'm like, what do you say?
I'm like, shit, I failed that question.
I was going to shut up for 5 minutes and think about that answer.
I was not expecting that.
It's great to be me. I'm very happy. Like, there's always things I can improve on and fix, or I screwed up, or it's, life throws you crappy things. But really at the end of the day, I'm pretty fortunate, and I'm pretty lucky, and I'm pretty happy, and I sing to myself, and I dance through life.
Okay, so on that theme then, if life was a movie, who would play you?
Yeah, and you can't say me again.
I wanted to say, could I play Julie Andrews? But I guess it's not the right question. Okay, who would play me? Well, I think the best person, but he's passed now, I think it would have been Chris Farley.
Chris Farley.
Wow, nice. Yeah. I haven't heard that name in a while.
Right? Epic though. Or
he was.
John Candy, right?
Right.
Yeah. I feel those two would,
Okay. And if you could instantly become an expert in something, what would it be?
I don't want to be a freaking expert.
Really?
Oh, it's boring, because then everybody thinks that you know everything, and then what if you screw it up? Like COVID.
Yeah, but you wouldn't. You're an expert.
Maybe. Really? Do you see how many experts there are for COVID? And it's a bit of a shit show, honey. Touche.
Oh, fair enough.
Okay. So let's move to the city. Toronto is your home. Have you ever lived anywhere else?
Yes, I spent 9 horrible months in Peterborough.
Oh.
So
in the winter? Don't tell me it was winter, Cheryl.
It sure was, my friend.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
Well, that's survival technique. I
actually moved to Peterborough to get my life back on track. And within 48 hours, I just sunk my life.
Really?
I left after 9 months. I got charged with 10 counts of public mischief over
in Peterborough.
$10,000. Yeah.
Do they have your photo in the entrance of Peterborough? Do not allow in these days?
No, I did make the paper though, whatever the paper was called. Yeah. And I left. I got on a bus and went to rehab. And the rest is history.
The rest is history.
So
yeah.
Toronto
Peterborough
is
is not for
definitely
everybody.
home. Yeah.
Peterborough was not for me.
It's not for everybody.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it was 1989.
I'm trying to think, how do you get like almost kicked out of Peterborough?
Well, that you do a lot of drugs and you cause some havoc and
Cause some mischief.
Yeah.
All right.
So
and kind of disrupt people's so-called idyllic life, which is usually all a lie.
yes.
All a
Totally.
facade. Yeah.
Well, how did you end up there though? Like, why Peterborough?
Well, I left home at 15 and
Right.
I was on and off the street until I was 20, just before I turned 22. And a friend of mine, I had lived in a group home, and she said, I'm out of here. I'm moving to Peterborough. You need to get your shit together. Why don't you come with me? And I was like, yeah, I do. I need to fix my life. It's upside down. Okay, I'll come with you. Fresh start.
Yeah.
But she kind of, when she got there, she went and did her own thing. And
So you didn't have a job, you just moved in. Okay.
And I probably was at the point in my life where I needed a hand. Somebody needed to just like hold me, guide me, tell me when I was making bad decisions, spank me. I don't know. But that wasn't happening. So I was left to my own devices and with not enough life skills in terms of being responsible yet, I got myself into a web of trouble, and it was no different than what it was like on the streets in Toronto. And
yeah, it's so interesting. Sorry, go ahead. You lived?
I lived pretty hard for those 9 months. And I basically, I raised the white flag and surrendered. And I called a worker here in Toronto, and she arranged for me to get on a bus. But the condition was, I'll get you smokes, a carton of smokes and a bus ticket, and I'll meet you in Toronto, but you're going right to rehab. And I went right to rehab. Yeah.
And that was the turning point.
And that was the turning point.
That was the turning point. Okay.
Yeah. I'd been going hard for 6.5 years.
Yeah.
I was tired. I slept. All I did for the first month, I was in rehab for 4 months. The first month, I just slept. That's all I did.
So when you rose that white flag, like, had you had other moments in your life where you were like, okay, let me raise this white, or was that for you, as they say, rock bottom, or however you want to, like, why did you raise the white flag at that point and not before?
I just had no more gas in me. I'd been going so hard. Yeah, I was going so hard. I was flailing. I had no concrete plan. I was also at an age where youth services in Toronto wouldn't take me anymore. So I was becoming an adult. And if you'd ever had to stay in an adult shelter in Toronto versus the youth ones, whew, they were rough. All kinds of people in there that you were just like, oh, hell no. So I think I just was like, that's where I'm headed. I'm either headed there or I'm headed to jail. And if I don't clean up my act now, my life is going to look very different. And so I just said, that's it. I'm done.
And then you went to culinary school, or?
No, what I started to do was, obviously I didn't have any employment experience. So I was hired. I started doing public speaking, and I was telling people about my story, and I was connected through some of the services that I used as a youth on the street. And they hired me part-time. And I was working in a group home, just like overnights. And then it got me another job, and then another job. I was working in a shelter. I had my first full-time job. And it was when I was at one of the shelters, they had a kitchen and they had a big flat top, and they had rules like you couldn't be in the kitchen, you couldn't get food after this time. And I really didn't like that. And we had 28 women that lived at that shelter. So I would come in for the overnight, and it was 12-hour overnight, and you couldn't sleep. So the only way I could stay awake is if I made food. So I would go in and I'd start the flat top, and I'd get grilled cheese going or pancakes or whatever. And some of the women would start to come downstairs. And so I just opened up the kitchen and we would eat together. And then I was friends with the chef that was there, and she taught me a ton of stuff. And then I decided I would take myself to culinary school. And I went in as a mature student.
Yeah, I'm hearing from you that what actually kind of saved you was helping others. So you moved from a person where being in great need and lost, and then going and helping others kind of pushed you up, and then the trajectory went into wherever it went, into food business.
Well, I think when you're down and out that much and you experience what I experienced, you come from a real place of empathy and understanding and respect and dignity. And regardless of what was taking place for any of those people that I was able to help, that is what I gave to them, because I had my own lived experience of it.
But I'm wondering, what was it that kept you going? And like, was it the sense of purpose? Was it that you mentioned the word community a lot, way more than many people? And is that what pulled you out?
I think what pulled me out, and I have this conversation, there's a family, Elizabeth, Aunt Liz, and her two daughters were a huge part of when things were really bad in my house. They always made sure that their arm was around me, and they always told me how much I was loved and appreciated. And so I think I always strived to have that in my life, because I knew it was possible. I knew in my own family things weren't great, but I knew on the outside that so much love was there. And so I think that I always tried to think about that and remember that, and then try to get to that.
Yeah. Do you know what kills me? Like you mentioned this, Elizabeth, and I honestly have a tear in the corner of my eye because so many people are lacking that knowledge that there is love. And you're fucking lucky because you had that. Like with everything, with all the negatives that may have happened, you had that knowledge. And I think that's what kept you going. And I so wish, like, there's so many people in the city and this world that don't have this love. And if there was this magic wand for us to let them know that there is, because there are a lot of people with love in their hearts, but there's that disconnect between the two.
Well, I think we've become this kind of thing, unless it happens in your house, that you don't go out past that. And what she had a family, she had a husband, she had her two daughters.
So she was a random neighbor to you?
She I think they moved when Dana, her daughter, was my best friend. I think they moved when she was 2 or 3 from Windsor or London. And we became best friends. And, you know, at times I knew that she had her own family and she had her own struggles and things to look after. I was never a burden to her. And she always made sure, and she still tells me to this day, we lost touch for 30 years. And she still tells me to this day how much she loves me, how beautiful I am, that I'm one of her daughters.
Oh my God, yeah. Right. Did you give her free barbecue sauce at least? Oh
yeah, I just sent barbecue sauce express post to her daughter. Absolutely. But if she hadn't have modeled that for me, or even the other community that didn't even take me in like she did, but if I hadn't have had that in my life, once it was taken away from me, I wanted it back desperedly. And
you knew that it's possible. I think. Absolutely. I think it's the knowledge, because if you wouldn't have known, you would have nothing to yearn for, and it wouldn't pull you out. My father is similar. His mother died at an early age, and he always tells us about he grew up in Old Jerusalem, and there were these ladies, these mothers who he felt at home in. And they always fed him, and they gave him that motherly love that he so needed. And that explains a lot.
Well, I always say to my aunt, her, you know, if it wasn't for you, there were such desperate times in my house. Such desperate times. I couldn't figure out what was going on. There was nothing I could do to stop it. And I felt desperate inside. And like I said earlier, my grandfather was a minister at the church, and I'm not really religious, today, but I can remember praying and thinking that I had one up with God because my grandfather was a minister, but please just stop it. Just, I couldn't take it anymore. And I always say to my Aunt Liz, you know, I think you and your family probably saved me from killing myself.
Mm. So she saved you twice. She saved you from killing yourself. And when you came out of Peterborough and went to, you remembered her love there and started giving it to other people, actually.
That's right.
Yeah. That's beautiful.
So how did you reconnect with her? Like after 30 years?
You know, it's funny. I looked for her on Facebook and I looked for Dana as well, but Dana had been married, so her last name changed. And my Aunt Liz was divorced, so she went back to her maiden name, which I knew, but I didn't put it together. And then for some reason, she went back to her married name. And the minute that happened, I just randomly found her. And then I found Dana and Dana's sister. And it was incredible when we saw each other. Because the other thing I took with me was I didn't know if I had a skewed memory of what my childhood was because I left so early, but I held on to every single thing. And when I spoke to them verbatim, they repeated the same stories. And so I knew I had packed my bag tight with as much memories of my childhood, of the good stuff that I could. And I think that literally kept my head above water.
You know, I hope that people that listen to this remember, like, it makes a mark because the words we say to kids around us matter, right? And how we behave and the love we give can stay. You think it doesn't, but it does. Look, it's stuck for so long.
Yeah. Yeah. It was pretty impactful. Absolutely.
Well, and you know, with trauma and stuff like that, you know, you can have patchy memory, but your memory was like spot on.
Yeah. I said to Dana, I said, like, do you remember it like this? And she would say it without me saying it. And I was like, oh my God, like I literally held on to everything that I could. And I think in the dark days, that would be the stuff that like my wife, she had a great childhood. She can't remember anything. I'm like, how is that possible? I know every single detail. And it's because I think I had to hold on to as much stuff. And maybe I would have went crazy. I don't know. Maybe.
Well, in your mind, even now, your mind is constantly, you know, thinking and working. And even in the forest, you know, you come up with names of things. And
I think the trees are telling her, calm down. And she's, no, barbecue sauce.
That's right.
So let's couple of pointers or questions about the city. What's your favorite park in Toronto?
The water filtration plant.
I always go around there. I never have been in there.
Okay, listen, I'm a full geek when it comes to Toronto history and Toronto architecture. Okay. You need to do a deep dive into that architecture. It is unreal.
I thought into the filtration water center, which worried me a little.
It was also my backyard. So we lived just up the street. So we would do all of our outdoor activities there and by the water. So it's my favorite place.
Wonderful.
Oh, that's so funny. My brother I can't remember if he was dating someone or something. And he wanted to take her for a walk. And he said to her, do you want to go for a walk? So of course she's like, yeah, that'd be nice. And do you want to go to the water filtration plant? And she was like,
what's he up to?
Not really. But if you've been there, which I have, it's really quite nice, like it's a nice walk, but it just doesn't really, didn't really reel her in. But I know exactly what you mean because I lived in the beaches for some time, and it's such a unique, it just feels like you're in a different world almost. It feels almost kind of off planet. It just feels very odd.
I agree.
Yeah. And the water.
After the Comrades burger, Liza, we're going there, okay?
We go to the water filtration plant. It's a date.
It's a date.
What's your favorite coffee shop in the city?
Tiaro.
Ice rink. Do you skate?
Yeah, I love to skate. And Dieppe Park in East York.
Okay. Did you skate extra this season? I was
I
ice
did.
skating like crazy this winter.
Yeah, we all were. I was like, babe, get us in. There's waiting list. We did some drop-ins.
Yeah.
I had knee surgery 17 months ago. I had replacement surgery. So I couldn't skate last year. So I was able to get up this year, so that was good.
Okay. Method. What's your preferred method of transportation in the city? Walk, bike, TTC, Uber,
Dance.
No,
car.
no Uber, definitely dance. I would say walk. Part of the reason I'm in this community is because everything's here. It's kind of like the beach, but not the
So
beach.
you're in Leslieville today.
Yeah. Yeah. So generally you'll find me walking. We share a car, my wife and I, but we leave that for camping or going hiking, that kind of stuff.
Okay. What
Yeah,
do
you
you
don't
think
really
is
need one in the city, do you? Like you don't.
No.
It's yeah. Not if you're living in the city, working in the city. It's just, it's not really necessary.
Yeah, it makes no sense.
Yeah.
What's the biggest missed opportunity for Toronto?
Oh boy, that's a big question. For as much as Toronto is portrayed as a place where everybody belongs and lives in harmony, Toronto is missing the mark on what it means to live in this city and who actually lives in it and how we live in it. I think the picture is a lot different than the picture we put out to the rest of the world. And I think the mark is being missed on how much more we could celebrate each other.
So you're pushing community?
Absolutely.
And how? How would you do that?
Well, I've lived both lives. I came from privilege, and then I didn't have so much privilege. And so for me, it's really important to not build fences. And it's very important for my community to have a little bit of everybody. It doesn't matter if you rent. It doesn't matter if you're in housing. It doesn't matter if you own your house, that everybody has a spot and a place, and it's just as important as the other person's.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
What is I know I love, like, following you. You do a lot of charity work. You raise money for non-for-profit. What is your favorite non-for-profit in the city?
Friends of Ruby is a big deal for me. And because I was a queer kid living on the street, it looks a little different than it did for me. There's a lot more services geared towards queer, gay, trans youth on the street, whereas it wasn't even there for me. And so, some of the issues for that community are a little bit different than for other community people. So it's really important for me to give back. And so I think May 11th, I'm doing a virtual pizza party to raise funds. Uncle Chuck's just did a big, huge giveaway at Super Bowl. And I raised $5,000.
Yeah.
And most of the money goes to their drop-in. The May 11th virtual pizza night is for their community housing that they have. And so I don't know what their goal is in terms of raising the money, but I put the pizza box, the ingredients, the cost of that together for them. And then it's like an hour and a half where we make 2 pies together, and it brings the community together. I did one for Torque, and we did it for Community Food Centers Canada. And it was great. We had 55 people virtually making pizza together. It was awesome.
Well, we'll try and promote it also in other ways. So we'll talk later.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. So it's very important that I participate wholeheartedly in my community in ways. Sometimes it's not even about raising money. It's just about the fact that I have enough followers that I can make an impact. So I can just give a shout out or post something in support of and just bring light through my Instagram or my Facebook, that kind of thing. So
it would strike me that you don't do anything without your whole heart. Like it seems like you're all in.
My father always said, never do anything less than 110%.
Yeah. Like all in. And heart, like there's a lot of heart. So let's move. We're going to move to a quick fire, sort of fast questions. Ready?
Moves ready?
Yeah, get ready. Okay. Coffee or tea?
Coffee.
Dark chocolate or milk chocolate?
Milk chocolate.
Was white a contender?
White is a contender, but it's a little too sweet. It's not really chocolate.
Okay. A chef would say that. Yeah. It's not really chocolate. Beer, wine, or whiskey?
Beer.
Breakfast, lunch, or dinner?
Breakfast.
Home cooked meal or takeout?
Home cooked.
City or countryside?
City.
Favorite season?
Ooh, fall.
Fall, good one. Night out or stay at home?
Stay at home.
Morning person or night owl?
Morning person.
Bath or shower?
Shower.
When you're entering into a swimming pool, do you jump in or do you tiptoe slowly?
I jump in.
Of course you do. Cat or dog?
Dog. As my cat's laying next to me. Sorry.
Cover your ears. Books or Netflix or TV?
Netflix, TV. Absolutely.
Phone calls or texts?
Texts.
Music or podcasts?
Music. But This podcast is fabulous.
We did not make her say that. Thank you. That concludes our quick fire questions. It's been so interesting. I'm like, I could continue talking to you.
Cheryl, we kind of, this podcast is about the city. It's about people who work in it, and it comes from the perspective of food because it's our natural angle and where we live. But you brought a really interesting perspective also, and it's more from the streets and just describing the great need that's out there. What I take from it is the need for love. I think that's so strong. And if even one of us could just keep it in the back of our minds when we communicate with people, with strangers, it can have great impact. So we want to thank you very much for joining us. And do you have any messages, anything else you want to share with your customers or with the listeners?
Well, when it comes time where we can embrace each other, I'm making myself fully available for as many hours as it takes to wrap my arms around everybody, because this has been so difficult. Because I'm such a lover and a touchy person. Some of the population is good to hide in their house for the rest of their lives and Zoom meeting for the rest of their lives. I am not one of those person, and I cannot wait to fully embrace. I'm such a hugger. And I want everybody to know that if they need that love and that hug, I am their person. And I said to Julie, who owns Torque, I said, we could make a lineup and I will make myself available to everybody that needs that, because we all need some of that right now.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm not a great hugger, Uncle Chuck, but my hug is in the form of having a beer together on a patio. So we could do that.
Well, you might want one of my hugs. I am known for my hugs. So I will take you up on that beer, but you don't have to hug me back, but I will hug you.
I'm in.
You can embrace the hug.
You'll convert me.
And remind us again where they can get your rubs. Like, what's your, social? How can they find you?
Yep. You can find me on social. The best way is uncle_Chucks or chef_inked. And you can find me at the Side Kitchen, which is 1093 Queen Street East. And more places to come soon.
Ooh. Yay. We need sound effects.
We'll put that in the show notes. We'll put that in the show notes, and I'll be in touch with you for that information.
Okay. All right.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for having me. It was awesome.
Yeah. It's been a pleasure.
Upfront Toronto podcast.